Connetics, and I'm with the panel of expert lawyers this morning, Carl Schusterman and Jacob Sapachnik. Unfortunately, Chris Musello was not able to join us today. He's traveling, but we look forward to him joining us on the next session. So I want to welcome you all today. It's Friday, so it must be Friday Facebook Live with Tanya and the guests. And we are going to be answering your questions, your immigration questions this morning, and make sure that we get all of your questions answered. So please make sure to put any further questions into the chat box as we go. And we will be happy to answer as many of your questions as possible. I'm just checking in the forum right now, and we'll start with the questions. Introduce yourself, by the way, and let us know who you are and where you are watching from. And I'm going to get started on the questions. Before I do that, though, just a quick shout out to the Lafora team. To Louise, Jean, Paul, and the rest of the admin team. It's so amazing of you to give us this opportunity to share information. The immigration process, as we all know, is very volatile. There are a lot of changes all the time that are happening, and it's really important to keep yourself educated and informed, and that you don't have your burning questions that aren't answered. So let's get started. So Carl and Jacob, do you want to say a quick hello?
Hey guys, how are you? Happy Friday.
Yeah, we have some very good news to share with you today too, so thank you for joining us.
Okay, perfect. And just for everybody to know, I'm not going to be reading out the bios of the lawyers, because I think everybody knows right now, so I rather want to take this time and answer your questions. So if you have any questions about their background, please have a look in the fora, and you can see a whole lot of information about their very impressive background and why they were chosen to actually be on this panel. So the first question, this was a confidential question which was posted. Hi there, my question to the panel of lawyers is, I have a child who turns 21 in October. Just in case the visa bulletin becomes current in October, which we all hope, right? 3 weeks before her birthday, will she be able to accompany me to the US? I was born in the UK and I passed the NCLEX, have a visa screen as well. I'm in the process of interviewing with Connetics. Well, welcome. So Carl, do you want to take that question?
Well, if you haven't started the process yet, then it's very unlikely. There is something called the Child Status Protection Act. And if you have already had a I-140, which is a petition by the employer sponsoring you, the length of time that petition is pending would be subtracted from the child's age when your number comes up. We call that, your number is your priority date, your place in line. So if your child, let me give you an example. You're normally a child who's over 21 would not be able to immigrate with you, but under the Child Status Protection Act, let's say your child was 21 and a half by the time that your number came up, but the petition had been pending for 1 year. That 1 year would be subtracted from your child's age, so they would become 20 and a half. And even though their actual age is 21 and a half, their CISPA age, their Child Status Protection Act age, would be 20 and a half, and they'd be able to immigrate together with you.
Okay. Jacob, do you have anything to add on that?
No, I'll agree with Carl. If they haven't started the process, I don't really see how it's possible for them to do this. But especially for Filipinos and people that have to wait for so long, the CISPA was a blessing. So I think in this case, it doesn't look like they've started. But again, like Carl said, if they had an I-140 pending for a year or two, that will be subtracted from the age even after they're 21.
And it seems like, I'm not sure in this case, but it seems like in this case, that's not what happened.
Right.
So unfortunately, it looks like the child may not be included in that petition. The one thing to bear in mind is if that child is becoming a nurse, they could get their own petition. So I would definitely encourage this nurse to see what her child is planning to do, because then she may be able to come in on her own. We have a question. Hi, Patrick. We have a question from Patrick, who's watching from London. Patrick has asked any updates with HR 1044 and where it's in the Senate.
You want to go on that, Jacob? Or?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if there's any major movement on this, as far as I've been following, and I've been out of the country for a while. But do you have any updates on this, Carl?
So I've been working a little with Bruce Morrison, who used to be, like 20 years ago, I met Bruce when he was head of the House Immigration Subcommittee.
Right.
And now he's an outside lobbyist helping the healthcare industry and other industries. If any of you don't know what HR 1044 is, it would get rid of the country quotas for immigrating to the U.S. through employment. So right now, maybe half the people who are immigrating to the U.S. through employment are from one country. They're from India, because they come in on H-1B visas and they work in the IT industry. And there's no quotas, country quotas on the H-1B. So 50% or more of the H-1Bs, and then they can only get 7% because of the country quotas of the green cards. So the line has become ridiculously long. There's over 500,000 people from India waiting for green cards, and there does have to be a solution to this. The problem is this HR 1044, which has been in the House of Representatives for about 10 years, actually passed a few weeks ago with not a single hearing. Nobody to say what I'm going to say right now. Right. And I think a lot of us totally agree with it. We want to solve the problem of the per country quotas. I mean, Filipinos get negatively impacted by the per country quotas, as well as Indians and Chinese and so on. Right. But after all these years, you can't just take off the country quotas with the 500,000 people waiting in line. You have to have a solution that increases the number of green cards for people with employment. So it passed the House of Representatives, and then there's a companion bill in the Senate called S-386. Rand Paul, who's a senator from Connecticut, put a hold on it so the senators cannot vote on it. And he introduced something that we wrote about. I think Jacob wrote about it as well, called the Believe Act, right, where he would essentially double the number of people that could immigrate through employment. They wouldn't even have a quota on nurses. Nurses and physical therapists are both shortage occupations. And it would really solve all these problems. But whether it has a chance of passing, I don't know. I've been talking to Bruce Morrison about it, and we've been trying to get healthcare employers around the country to write their senators and say, do not pass S-386, pass the Believe Act. Because if they got rid of the country quotas without increasing the number of visas, it would take 7 to 10 years for a nurse to be able to immigrate to the U.S., no matter what country the nurse was from. And that not only would be a disaster for nurses, it would be a disaster for the baby boomers. You know, we're all getting older, we all need medical care, and there's not enough nurses graduating from U.S. schools. So right now, everything's on hold. I mean, I haven't heard of anything that's going to pass. But if you have an offer from a hospital and maybe they don't know about it, please tell them to write their senators and say, pass the Believe Act, don't pass S-386.
Yeah.
And, it seems to me that all these bills and, they're just being on hold and people are just getting confused. We're getting emails from senators asking for support, but nothing is kind of moving. It's all being proposed. So hopefully it will happen.
Yeah, it's still obviously very much up in the air. And I think, as Carl said, there's a big move at the moment to get the hospitals, the nursing homes, surgery centers, correctional facilities, anybody who is hiring nurses. I know that we have been working with all of our clients at Connetics, and we work with facilities all over the US to get them to sign. There's like a template letter to get them to sign that and send that to their senators to raise awareness, because it really is a matter of education. And as Carl said, it's, they call it the silver tsunami. All the baby boomers in the US who are getting older, we all are part of that. And there's just not enough nurses. I mean, the shortage, it's not like somebody could say this time next year the shortage is going to get better in the US. No, it's only going to get worse, which is good news for those people in the fora and looking to come to the US and still have the American dream. But obviously in the US itself, it's a matter of educating and making sure that the senators know the situation. So it's still in flux. In fact, it's always interesting to me that I found until recently, often the nurses are actually more educated than the hospitals. So it really has been an education process.
Because they have an interest to come, obviously, so they learn everything.
Yeah, exactly, which is great. So if you are interviewing, make sure to speak to the hospitals that you're working with, and get them to contact the senators. Okay, we're getting lots of good questions this morning. So I see we have Louise is watching. We have Patrick. Thank you for the question, Patrick. Milanis, Blessy. Hi, Blessy. We have Brian Joseph, who is posting a question. I received my approval notice and my name is wrong. Can it be corrected at the NVC stage? And how long will an approved case take? How long will an approved case reach the NVC once it is approved?
So I think we had a lot of issues with name or days of birth. Usually we'll send a letter requesting a correction and also follow that throughout the process. So I don't think it's an issue. And what was the other part of the question? How long it takes from the approval of the I-140?
Once a case is approved, how long will an approved case reach the NVC?
So a few months, several months probably. I guess it varies right now.
Yeah. It's really difficult to give exact timelines. Carl, do you have any?
Well, unfortunately, in the last couple of years, everything in the immigration world has slowed down. So, it is taking a number of months for the NVC to transfer things over to the embassy. But given that the Filipino third preference, which nurses are in, has shrunk from over 7 years to virtually nothing, it is kind of a minor delay right now. So I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Okay. Well, that's an answer to Patrick and Blessy's next questions, because Patrick asked, what is the prediction of the visa bulletin? And Blessy asked, any positive news about the reversal of reproduction?
Yeah, I think we're doing this at the end of August and the September visa bulletin, which is the end of the year when the numbers have dried up. So it always looks bad. You can really get depressed if you look at the September visa bulletin. In a few weeks, we'll have the October visa bulletin, and that'll be the good news again. Yeah. So, no reason to get depressed because the numbers have backed up several years in September. But about the visa bulletin predictions, I just, for those of you who don't know, my wife is from the Philippines. And we met when we both worked at the Immigration Service in the 1970s together. And in the big breakthrough for our law firm came in the 1990s when we established a web page. When the internet came out, I thought, oh my God, I used to write articles for the Filipino newspapers, and maybe 70 or 100 people would read them or something. And now I said, oh, you mean I can put something on a computer and people all around the world will be able to read it? That was the biggest.
Gotta love technology.
Exactly. So I have spent so much time updating the website and adding pages. We have like over 1,000 pages that my wife calls herself a web widow. Okay. And it's partially true. It's partially true. So there's a guy at the State Department who I've become good friends with over the last 30 years named Charlie Oppenheim, who writes the monthly Visa Bulletin. And he has a meeting with AILA, which is the Association of Immigration Lawyers, once a month, and he gives predictions, and it's really great. So I used to have that on my Visa Bulletin page. Just, here are all the charts, and here are the predictions, right? And then about 6 months ago, I decided, boy, if you're on your phone and you're reading all 4 charts and then the predictions, it's just too much. So I moved the predictions. If you Google in Visa Bulletin predictions, we actually come up #1 because the State Department doesn't publish predictions or anything. And it's the Visa Bulletin is the most popular page on our website, and the predictions is #2. Yeah. So we just put up the predictions about 3 days ago, and it just, I didn't even put it up on Facebook, but I guess the word spread around on the forums. So we were having dozens and dozens of people, and within 5 or 10 minutes, all go to that page. So, take a look at the page. But I would say it's pretty positive. In October, things will return, if not back to normal, and then a pretty close to normal again.
Yeah, I think
everybody's optimistic on that.
It's the $1 million question that everybody wants to know, and unfortunately, we don't have exact answers. But check out both Jacob and Carl's webpage.
Yeah, it says I'll read one sentence. I just went to the page. It says Charlie's unable to say when the final action dates for EB3 will become current. It's possible that would happen in October, but it may take a little longer. So that's what he's saying right now.
Okay, so we got to be patient.
Right.
I'm hoping it's going to be good. People are waiting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, we're getting a lot of questions. I had prepared questions that Louise had posted into the forum. Some of them were from people directly, some were confidential, and we understand that sometimes people don't want to have their name on it, but I want to try and get through as many as possible. So Jackie B asked, I'm wondering why primary care experience is not priority in hiring nurses, even there are previous bedside care. So Jackie, that's not really a question for the lawyers, but I can maybe answer that. And really it depends on the client. So it depends on the client. We have some clients, we specialize in direct hire, and we have some clients that will look for specific experience. We have some clients that are just more open and will look at previous experience. So it really just depends on the employer. We have Tess watching from Adventist in Bakersfield. Hi, Tess. Nice to see you. Iris watching from Riyadh. Janelle watching. JD watching from Qatar. Tina Tin from Oman. Mark Jacob. Okay, Mark Jacob has a question. I'm under an agency and currently at NVC stage already. I have a solid 10 years background experience, but at the moment, a 6-month work gap. Agency wants to hold my application and requested me to render another 24 continuous months of practice due to the 6-month work gap. I plan to withdraw and then pay them the costs. If I apply directly to another facility or agency, how long would I expect to wait after recapturing my case? Okay, so Carl or Jacob, do you want to take that question? So Mark is with an agency and wants to withdraw. How long would it take before he is able to recapture his initial priority date? What will be the timelines on that?
So he's going to have to file a whole new case. He just wants to preserve his priority date?
Yes, so I think he's got a priority date from the previous petition, and he's asking about the timelines once he recaptures that previous priority date.
So it's a timeline. Well, he's going to have to do a whole new I-140, get approved, and then work on getting that priority date, the original one.
Yes,
We kept.
correct.
Yeah. So he wants to know timeline?
Yeah. Carl?
Yeah, so what I would suggest is have the employer do it premium processing. They pay an extra fee to immigration, but then immigration has to turn around the new petition and fit within 15 business days. And you get the old priority date. So, given the fact that things are either going to go current or a few months backed up, you'll probably be at the front of the line within a couple of weeks. So you're in good shape.
Okay, good. Thank you for that. Okay, we have, I didn't want to miss anyone. John Elster is asking, will the visa bulletin become current again next month? So John, I hope you were listening. I know that the panel already answered that question. We're all hopeful on the visa bulletin. El Defa says hello. Van Ramola says, hi guys, good morning, watching from Los Angeles. So again, you're on our side of the US. And El Delfa is watching from Bohol, Philippines. So lovely to see everybody from all over the world. That's where you say you've got to love technology. And I'm just feel so honored and so blessed that we can provide this service to you and help you answer your questions. So often I watch in the fora how many of you ask each other, and even though many nurses are very informed about immigration, it's not like getting it from the experts. So that's really where we're so grateful to Carl, Jacob, and Chris. So Noza has a question. Filed my petition with my wife added. We are documentarily qualified and waiting for the exit interview date, which we think may be October or November. Now her expected date of delivery is within that time. I think I actually had that question in my prepared questions. So thank you for raising it again. So his wife is expected, the interview will be in October, November, but the expected date of delivery is within that time. So the question is, can I still add the baby if she delivers before the interview date? And what if she delivers after getting the visa? How do we get a visa for the baby? Carl.
Well, I'll do the before. I'll let Jacob take the after.
But babies come when they want to come, Carl.
Right?
Yeah, if the baby comes in time, then at the interview, you just tell the examiner that, and they'll add the paperwork. And in fact, I just thought of an idea for after you. It may be easier if the baby doesn't come by the interview time, just to tell the embassy that, hey, my wife's having a baby, can we put this over a few weeks? And then the baby will come before, and you do the same thing that I just talked about. You don't have to worry if the baby comes a little after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, some good suggestions.
Did you say after when they're already in the U.S.? Is that what she was asking about after?
I think after the interview at the end.
After the interview, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, after the interview. It's actually interesting in our in the prepared questions that I got, and I want to try and get through some of those as well. There were actually quite a lot of baby questions this month. That was kind of interesting. So one of those is I gave birth to my daughter last September 2017, but I and my husband got married only on February 2019. Will this be a potential problem in the future during the immigration application? So she's asking, she had her baby and then got married afterwards. Will this affect the immigration process at all?
So I assume it's the same father, right?
She doesn't say, but I think so. My husband and I think so. I'm not sure, but I think so.
I mean, if it's the same father, then, when they immigrate, she's going to be, if she's the person petitioning, the child will go under her, and then they'll go as a family.
Yeah.
If they're not married, then, they're not going as a family, but the child will still go with her because she's the mother.
Okay. All right. So no issues there. No need to worry in that case. Okay. All right. So whoever wrote that one, scratch that one off your worry list. So that's good. Good news. Okay, so let me take one of the other prepared questions. So we have another confidential question, which is, my case is at the NVC stage. Originally, my consul was in Abu Dhabi and requested the NVC, and I requested the NVC to change my consulate to the Philippines. Now I have my new case number, but then I changed my mind. Yikes. And wanted to request NVC to bring my embassy interview back to Abu Dhabi. Can I still do that?
Yeah, I mean, you can do it, but you'll wait a little longer, that's all.
Yeah, so it really does affect the timeline. So for anybody who's watching, I mean, we've seen this a few times with some of our nurses, and it really is something that you want to try and avoid, if possible, is to be changing your mind up and down with different consulates. Anything to add on that, Jacob?
Yeah, I think any movement, whether you do it in the US with moving UCIS offices or consulates, definitely going to cause delays. It's just, unfortunately, it happens.
Yeah. Okay. So it's possible, but if possible, try not to do that. We actually had another question now on the embassy. Is this was also a confidential question. It was actually sent to me directly, where this nurse is in Al Ain. And so is going to be doing the consulate interview in the UAE, but I think she is a single mom. I'm not sure from this message, but her children are in the Philippines, and she wants to know, does she have to bring them to the UAE for the consulate? Is it important for the family to be with the nurse when they go for the consulate interview, or how does it work if they're going to be in two different countries?
I mean, I had a recent case like this. I mean, I think it's easier if they're all in the same place, but we had cases where they did it separately. As long as the first person gets the visa, the primary gets their petition, the family can join him later. But I always recommend them to go at the same time if they can. Okay.
So if you can, to this person is to go together would be better. Okay. So Mark Jacob posted another question. Do hospitals in the US consider the years of experience when it comes to the pay scale? So I can answer that that question, Mark. Yes, hospitals in US consider years of experience when it comes to the pay scale. And really it depends on the hospital. The thing that I think a lot of people don't realize in the US is that you can have two hospitals really across the road from each other that might have different pay scales. Some will pay on certifications, some pay extra for education, but pretty much it will be based on years of experience. Okay, let me try and give everybody a chance. So we've got Tams asked, in terms of giving interview dates to documentarily qualified applicants, do you think those DQ'd on June 2019 can receive the interview packet next month? Oh gosh, I just lost the question. Oh, here we go. So I think the question here from Tams is, if you were documentarily qualified in June 2019, can you receive the interview packet next month, September, for October 2019 dates? So I think she was obviously caught with the retrogression. How would that affect the timelines, would you say? Carl?
Okay, well, I mean, of course,
we're waiting for one or the other to answer.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a prediction, like who's going to win the $1 million lottery. I mean, we don't have the October dates, but assuming that the priority date is current in October, sure, she might be able to be interviewed in October.
Okay. Yeah. So we are hopeful, Sam. So we none of us, I think the answer, the short answer is that we really are not sure. We are hopeful. So we'll have to all stay tuned. And what do they say? Patience is a virtue. Right. Welcome, Krista Lane. Loween is asking about the visa bulletin. I think, Loween, we have answered that question. Donna is referring some of her friends. So, sorry, not Donna, Bonna. So please, everybody, share this with your friends and colleagues. We really encourage you to make sure that you pass on this information. Let's all pay it forward for everybody else, because there might be a burning question that one person is asking and might be answered on this panel. So let's make sure to share. I think the Lafora team do such a great job of giving so selflessly of themselves to helping so many of you. So make sure that you share this information as well. Okay, we are at time. I cannot believe it.
Perfect.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm gonna give one more question. So Enroldus said from Abu Dhabi, thank you for regularly conducting this informative session. It was nice. Oh yeah, it was very nice meeting you in person. So you're welcome, and please, everybody, know that we will continue to do this once a month. So keep your questions coming. Princess asked, and this is the last question: is it possible to be scheduled? Oh, I think we've already answered this question, Princess. You were asking the same question as Tam. So if you want to listen to that question. Okay, this is the last question then. So Juna is watching from Canada. Welcome, Junior. And Christelle. So this is the last question. If you are a green card holder and a dependent, do you have to take the IELTS to be able to work as a nurse in the US if you are a foreign educated nurse? This is a good question, Christelle. We actually get this a lot.
Yeah, so no. Only the principal nurse has to have the visa screen, because that is a condition to get the green card.
Right.
But you know, depending on which nursing board you take, you may have to have it for that. But as purely an immigration thing, you can get the green card without having the test. Do they require? I imagine, though, if you do have to pass the NCLEX test, so you definitely have to have a knowledge of English. Does NCLEX, Tanya probably knows more than I do about this. Does NCLEX require you to pass the IELTS?
No, it doesn't require you to pass the IELTS. But as you said, sometimes you've got to look at it from there's kind of like an immigration lens, and there's a licensing lens.
Right.
So through the immigration lens, Carl is 100% correct. If you are the dependent and you come through and you are wanting to work as an RN and you've passed the NCLEX, you can work as an RN. However, there is the licensing lens. And what that means is it depends on the state that you're going to be working in. Because, for instance, there are some states, like Missouri, for instance, where you have to pass the IELTS in order to get the Missouri endorsement. So it depends. Every state is different. Some states require it, some don't. And in fact, there are some states like California that require, if you were not trained in English, even if you have a green card, but you were educated outside the US, you have to pass the TOEFL.
Right.
So every state is different, and that's where it's very important to educate yourself about those differences, and to look at it not just through an immigration lens, but also through a licensing lens.
Yeah. People don't forget we have 50 states.
Yes, exactly. There's a lot of differences. It's
Right.
not one size fits all. Exactly.
Right.
Well, we have so many more questions coming. Just welcome to Princess, Noza, Tams, Bundalagazi. I hope I'm pronouncing that even slightly right. Adelpha, thank you so much for all the questions. Thank you again to Carl and to Jacob. We missed Chris, but he will be back next month. And we want to thank again the Lafora Forum for giving us this opportunity. Keep the questions coming. We look forward to lots of good things, and we look forward to seeing as many of you as possible in the US in the coming months. Thank you again. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.